There is a specific kind of silence that happens on a rainy street in Georgetown right after something terrible has happened.
Hmm.
It's not actually quiet, you know? You have the rain hitting the pavement, maybe the hum of traffic a few blocks away.
A siren starting up somewhere in the distance.
Exactly. But the normal sound of the evening, the sound of a date night, of a couple going to dinner, that just gets erased.
It snaps. The whole reality of the situation just, it fractures.
And that fracture is where we're starting our deep dive today. We are opening a file that begins with that shattered silence and ends. Well, honestly, it's not clear where it ends. We are looking at the disappearance of Roger Heller.
And we have a pretty substantial pile of source material to work from here. We've got police reports, witness statements, internal corporate documents, and crucially, a very detailed narrative of the investigation itself.
I think it's important to frame this right at the top. This isn't just a missing person case.
Oh, not at all. If you look at the data, the trajectory is just wild.
Yeah.
It starts out looking like a domestic tragedy.
Right.
Then for a few hours, it seems like a violent mugging gone wrong. And then it spirals, and fast. You're suddenly dealing with international corporate espionage, Department of Defense watch lists, and huge amounts of missing cash.
It really forces you to ask that question. How well do you actually know the people in your life? The person sitting across the table from you?
Mm-hmm.
So the mission for this deep dive is clear. First, we need to reconstruct the timeline of Roger Heller's disappearance. Second, we have to unpack the clues that were left behind because some of them are incredibly specific and, frankly, terrifying.
And third, we need to analyze the tradecraft, not just of the people who took him, but also the tradecraft of the man who's hunting for them.
Because that's the lens we're seeing all this through. It's not a police procedural. The investigation is being run by Nick Heller, the victim's brother.
And Nick Heller's not a cop. He operates in a totally different ecosystem. He has a different set of rules, or maybe no rules at all.
Let's lay out the players before we jump into the timeline, because the family dynamic is absolutely central to this entire mystery. The victim, the man who vanishes, is Roger Heller.
Roger is, on paper at least, the American dream personified. He's a senior finance executive at a massive company, Gifford Industries. He's rich, lives in a gorgeous renovated townhouse in Georgetown, drives a luxury car.
He sounds perfect.
He's incredibly fastidious. The sources describe him as the kind of guy who organizes his sock drawer by color. His hobby is bird watching. A birder. He's the guy who follows every rule, dots every I, crosses every T.
The archetypal good brother.
Exactly. Which, of course, means there has to be a bad brother. And that's Nick Heller.
The investigator.
He's the estranged sibling. While Roger was getting his MBA and climbing the corporate ladder, Nick was, well, he was in the Army. Special Forces, Green Berets.
So a very different path.
Completely. And now he works for a private intelligence firm called Stoddard Associates.
And I want to pause on that for a second. The sources are very specific about what Stoddard Associates is. This is not your typical private eye in a trench coat.
No, far from it. Think of it more like a private CIA for hire. They don't handle cheating spouses. They handle situations for Fortune 500 companies and, billionaires with problems.
It's the kind of problems you can't take to the police.
Or the kind of problems where the police are just too slow or too constrained by law to get the result the client wants. Nick is the guy they send. He's cynical. He drives this beat-up Land Rover Defender, and he specializes in what the industry calls the dark arts. Surveillance, extraction, social engineering.
The guy you call when things go very, very wrong.
Right. And then rounding out the family, you have Lauren, Roger's wife. She's, by all accounts, completely innocent in all this. Devoted to Roger, terrified, and totally out of her depth.
And their son, the stepson, Gabe.
Gabe is the interesting one. He's a teenager, moody, artistic, but he's the only one in the family who seems to suspect that Roger isn't the perfect man everyone thinks he is. He's got that teenage radar for hypocrisy.
They're often the best intelligence assets in a house, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
They see everything because nobody thinks they're paying attention. Gabe senses something is wrong in that house long before anyone else does.
Okay. So before we get to that rainy night in Georgetown, the source material starts us somewhere else. It starts us in Los Angeles on a job Nick is finishing up right before he gets the call about his brother. And I found this fascinating. It's almost like a primer for the world we're about to enter.
It's the Argonne Express incident.
Yeah.
And it is critical for setting the stakes. It calibrates you for the scale of what's to come.
So what's the setup?
Nick is at a rainy private airfield in L.A. He's been hired to find a stolen airplane. A Boeing 727 cargo plane.
A stolen 727. I mean, again, that sounds impossible. It's not a Honda Civic. You can't just hotwire it and drive it away.
Yeah, you would think. You'd imagine it would be in Mexico by now or in some chop shop being stripped for parts.
But that's not what happened.
Not at all. He finds it sitting right there on the tarmac, not far from where it was taken. It's just been repainted. The official Argonne Express logo is gone, and it's been replaced with these cheap decals for a fake company called Value Charters.
Hiding in plain sight.
It's the perfect example of a concept Nick operates by, something the sources call the honest man's security flaw.
Break that down for us. It feels like a key piece of tradecraft.
It's a massive psychological blind spot that professionals exploit. All of our security fences, ID badges, checkpoints, it's designed to stop an intruder at the perimeter.
To keep bad guys out.
Right. But once someone is inside that perimeter, if they look like they belong, if they act with purpose and confidence, the human brain it assumes they're supposed to be there. We're socially conditioned not to challenge people who look like they're doing a job.
So if you're wearing a high-vis vest and carrying a clipboard,
You can walk almost anywhere. In this case, the thieves dressed up as a ground crew and repainted a commercial airliner in broad daylight. And because they looked like they were working, nobody questioned them. They hid it by making it look utterly boring and routine.
that's incredible. But the plane itself, that's not even the wildest part of this LA job.
No, the plane is just the container. It's the cargo that blows the doors off.
Nick confronts the airport's security director, a guy named Woody Sawyer, who is very clearly in on the whole scheme.
Right. He's been paid off.
Yeah.
And they go out to the plane, they open the cargo hold, and Nick is expecting, what? Drugs, weapons, something illicit.
But it's not.
It's cash.
A lot of cash.
An unbelievable amount of cash. The cargo bay is filled with 500 cubic feet of shrink-wrapped $100 bills. Fresh bricks of currency, still in the Federal Reserve wrappers.
500 cubic feet. Can you even put a number on that?
Nick does a quick back-of-the-envelope calculation based on the volume and density of currency. It comes out to nearly $1 billion.
$1 billion in cash, sitting on a runway in Los Angeles.
Just there. And Nick's mind immediately makes a connection, which is really telling. He references the pallet money from the early days of the Iraq War.
Right, I remember those stories. The U.S. flew literal pallets stacked with billions of dollars in cash into Baghdad.
And a lot of it just vanished. It disappeared into the war economy, used for off-the-books payments, bribes, funding private militias. It was untraceable.
So why does the story start here? Why is this incident so important to the main file on Roger Heller?
Because it calibrates the scale for us. If this whole thing started with Roger, the missing husband in Georgetown, you'd think, okay, this is about a ransom, maybe a few $1 million.
A wealthy guy gets kidnapped, it happens.
But by starting with the $1 billion plane, we understand that Nick Heller operates in a world of shadow finance, a world where money moves in physical bulk, completely off the books, through shell companies like Traverse Development, the fake owner of the cash, that don't actually exist on paper.
It tells you that the people Nick deals with, the kind of people who can steal a plane and $1 billion, they have resources that are almost at a state level.
Precisely. So when his brother disappears a day later, we're not thinking about local criminals anymore. We're already primed to be thinking about a global conspiracy.
Okay, so let's keep that $1 billion in the back of our minds and fly to D.C. It's date night for Roger and Lauren Heller. But the sources are clear that the atmosphere is wrong from the very beginning.
Yeah, Roger is completely off his game. Normally, Lauren describes him as the Mussolini of Makey.
What does that even mean?
It means he's a control freak. He orders for everyone. He corrects the waiter's pronunciation of the wine. Everything has to be perfect. But on this night, he's distracted. He's anxious. He's glued to his BlackBerry.
The BlackBerry. That definitely dates the source material a little bit.
It does, but it also highlights the secure, corporate nature of his communications. And he's on that thing constantly. Under the table, he's sweating. Lauren knows something is deeply wrong.
They finish dinner, they walk to their car, and Roger suddenly says he left his keys back in the restaurant.
The setup. It's a classic separation tactic in an abduction, though in this case it seems to be accidental on Roger's part. He runs back to get the keys.
Leaving Lauren alone on the dark street.
And that's when it happens. The attack.
She's grabbed from behind. The description is... it's visceral. It's just a blur of motion, gloved hands, someone covering her mouth, the smell of leather and rain.
But then Roger comes running back out of the restaurant. He sees these men holding his wife. And he screams something. 2 words.
Why her?
Why her? And that Right there, that is the pivot point of the entire investigation for Nick.
At first glance, it sounds like just a generic cry of shock.
No, it is incredibly specific. Think about it. If you walk out of a restaurant and see your wife being attacked by muggers, you yell, "Let her go," or "Stop," or "Get away from her."
You react to the event.
You don't ask why her, unless you were expecting them to grab you.
It implies expectation. He knew they were coming for him.
He was mentally prepared for it. He was shocked, but not that the attack was happening. He was shocked that they got the target wrong. It confirms that Roger wasn't just distracted at dinner. He was waiting for the hammer to fall.
And the attackers, they completely ignore him. They knock Lauren out. She gets a severe concussion, wakes up in the hospital, and they take Roger.
And then nothing. He's gone. No ransom note, no phone call, no contact of any kind.
The police arrive, led by a detective lieutenant named Garvin, and they're treating it like a violent mugging or a carjacking gone wrong. They're looking for fingerprints, checking for stolen credit cards.
Standard procedure.
Yeah.
But Nick arrives, called in by the stepson Gabe, and he immediately starts looking at the digital trail instead of the physical one, which brings us to the email.
This part of the file is just chillin'. Lauren is in her hospital bed, head throbbing, trying to make sense of what happened, and she gets a notification. It's an email from Roger.
But it was sent after he was abducted. It comes from a service called incaseofdeath.net.
A digital dead man's switch.
Exactly. You write messages in advance. You set a timer, say 24 or 48 hours. If you don't log in to reset that timer because you're dead or kidnapped, the service automatically sends out your last words.
So Roger planned for this. He knew this was a possibility. He sat down days, maybe weeks before, and wrote a goodbye letter.
He knew he was in mortal danger.
Yeah.
And the email itself it's an apology. He admits he hasn't been a good husband, that his work consumed him. But then he says he's taken precautions. He's left a means to hold them off for Lauren and Gabe.
Leverage.
Some kind of insurance policy. And then there's this cryptic PS.
Please say goodbye to the librarian.
Just that. The librarian.
We will definitely circle back to that because it's a massive clue. But something happens right then, as Nick and Lauren are reading this email, that tells Nick he's up against an incredibly sophisticated enemy.
The email vanishes.
And you don't mean it goes into the trash folder.
No. It is actively scrubbed from the server while they are looking at the screen. The words are there 1 second, and the next, the email is just gone. Nick tries to find a trace of it, but it's been wiped from the email providers for servers completely.
Okay, what does that take technically? To reach into someone's active inbox and delete a specific message after it's been delivered and opened?
It means you have root access to the server, or you have a pre-installed backdoor. It means the people who took Roger aren't just watching, they are actively managing the digital space in real time. They saw the email get opened, realized Roger left behind a message they hadn't accounted for, and they nuked it.
This isn't a mugger with a gun.
This is a team with cyber warfare capabilities.
Which leads Nick directly from the digital security to the physical security. He has to find that leverage Roger mentioned. He goes to the house in Georgetown, to Roger's home office.
And the first thing he sees is Roger's laptop. The screen is showing the infamous blue screen of death.
So it crashed.
Well, that's what it looks like. But Nick knows the difference between a system crash and a deliberate wipe.
How can you tell?
A crash is messy. It leaves recoverable data fragments on the hard drive. A professional wipe, like a military-grade one, is clean. It overwrites every single sector of the drive with random ones and zeros multiple times. It's designed to make data recovery forensically impossible. Someone was physically at that laptop and ran a nuke program on it.
And how did they get in? The police report says no forced entry. The alarm wasn't triggered.
Right. So Nick goes looking for the subtle entry point. He checks the French doors that lead out to the garden, and he finds that the alarm contacts have been jumpered.
Jumpered. Explain that for those of us who aren't security experts.
Most home alarms are just a simple magnetic circuit. You have a magnet on the door and a sensor on the frame. When the door is closed, the circuit is complete.
And when it opens, the circuit breaks and the alarm goes off.
Exactly. To jumper it, you carefully strip the insulation off the 2 wires leading to the sensor, and you bridge them with a small piece of wire, a jumper cable. The alarm panel now sees a completed circuit, even if the door is wide open.
So the system thinks the door is still closed.
The system is perfectly happy. It can open the door, walk inside, wipe the laptop, search the house, and walk back out, and the alarm panel will show all secure the entire time. It's a quiet, professional entry.
So the enemy has already been inside the perimeter. They've tossed the house. They've wiped the digital records. It's starting to feel hopeless.
It does. But then they get the first real proof that Roger is still alive.
The ATM photos.
Yeah, Elton Garvin gets a hit. About 30 minutes after the abduction, Roger was forced to withdraw money from an ATM.
How much?
$5,000, the daily maximum for his account. And the ATM, of course, takes his picture.
And what does the visual data show?
It shows a man who is absolutely terrified. Roger's disheveled, his tie is crooked, his eyes are wide, and just at the edge of the camera's frame, you can see a hooded figure standing behind him.
A man with a gun.
Implicitly, yes. You can see the posture, the control. But here's the crucial insight that Nick has. The money itself is almost irrelevant.
How can that be? $5,000 is still $5,000.
But think about the scale we established earlier. To people who can make $1 billion vanish, $5,000 is pocket change. It's noise. The important fact is that they kept him alive after the withdrawal.
What does that tell you?
Tells you it's not a simple robbery homicide. If they just wanted to kill him, he'd be dead. If they just wanted to rob him, they'd take his cards and pin in and dump him in a ditch. The fact that they're marching him around to ATMs means he has a value beyond the contents of his wallet.
They need something from him.
They need information. He has something in his head that wasn't on the laptop they wiped.
Okay, let's talk about what might be in his head. Because up to this point, we've seen Roger as the victim, the perfect, fastidious, good brother. But as Nick starts digging deeper into the physical house, the receipts, the paper trail, that image starts to crumble.
It completely disintegrates. And this is classic investigative work. You build a profile of the victim, you go through their trash, their credit card statements, you see what a person buys when they think no one is watching them.
The vanity items really stood out to me in the sources.
Right. Nick finds receipts just for men, hair dye, and for Botox injections.
Which, on its own, isn't a huge deal.
No, it's just vanity. But the issue is that Roger was lying about it. He told Lauren his youthful look was all from good genes and cardio. So it's a small lie, but it establishes a pattern.
Small lies can hide big lies.
And then Nick finds the big one. First, a bill for a secret cell phone, a burner phone that Lauren knew nothing about. And then his colleague at Stoddard, a brilliant data analyst named Dorothy Duvall, she finds something in the medical insurance records.
The abortion.
Roger paid for an abortion for a woman named Candy DuPont.
Candy with an I.
Which, as Nick dryly notes, sounds suspiciously like a stripper name.
This shatters the entire image of the devoted family man.
It totally validates the stepson, Gabe. Gabe had been saying for months, my dad's a fake, he has secrets, and the adults all dismissed it as teenage angst. But Nick realizes the kid was the only one in the house who was actually seeing the man clearly.
So does the affair explain the kidnapping? Is this just a blackmail scheme that went wrong, or a jealous boyfriend?
Nick has to consider it. It's a plausible motive. Cherchez la femme, right? Look for the woman. But it just doesn't fit the rest of the data.
How so?
A jealous ex-boyfriend doesn't have the technical sophistication to remote wipe an email from a secure server. He doesn't know how to professionally jumper an alarm system. The tradecraft is too advanced.
So the affair is just noise, a distraction.
I think it's more of a vulnerability. It shows that Roger was compromised. He was living a secret life, which made him susceptible to pressure. But it's not the root cause of his disappearance. The cause is something much bigger.
And we find out just how big when Elton Garvin runs Roger's name through the federal databases.
This is the moment in the file where the ceiling just blew off the case for me. Garvin gets a major hit. Roger Heller is listed in the terrorist screening database.
He's on the no-fly list.
A senior finance executive at a construction company is on the U.S. government's terrorist watch list. I mean, that just doesn't compute.
How is that even possible?
Nick uses a contact he has at the TSA, a guy named Puccino, to try and get more detail. Usually a flag like that would be placed by the FBI or maybe Homeland Security.
But Rogers wasn't.
Rogers' flag was originated by the Department of Defense, the DoD, the military.
Okay, you have to help me understand the bureaucracy here. Why would the Pentagon care about an accountant?
Because Gifford Industries isn't just building shopping halls. A huge part of their business is massive government construction contracts. They build military bases, U.S. embassies, secure facilities in war zones.
Ah.
If you are the finance guy who manages the money for those black budget projects, you are touching the deepest national security secrets. You know where the money is flowing.
So if Roger is on a DoD watch list, does that mean the U.S. government thinks he's a traitor?
It means they see him as a massive security risk, at the very least. And what's more, the reason code for his listing in the database is classified above top secret. Buccino can't even see why he was flagged.
This changes everything. This isn't a domestic crime anymore. It's not even just corporate espionage.
It's a matter of state. It explains why the people who took him have such high-level capabilities. Nick realizes he's not just fighting a corporation, he's fighting a shadow wing of the intelligence community, or, more likely, a private military contractor that operates with government impunity.
Which brings us all the way back to the one tangible clue they have left. That cryptic PS in the deleted email.
Say goodbye to the librarian.
At this point, Nick has to go into the lion's den. He has to get inside Gifford Industries and figure out who or what the librarian is.
And again, it's about tradecraft. He doesn't sneak in at night. He uses social engineering. He walks in the front door in the middle of the day.
The honest man flaw again.
Exactly. He poses as a security auditor named John Murray, wears a suit, carries a clipboard, and acts like he's bored. And this is all a huge inconvenience for him. Corporate employees are terrified of auditors. They'll give you anything you want just to make you go away faster.
He gets up to Roger's floor, the Special Projects Division. The office is one of these futuristic green buildings, but the mood inside is incredibly tense. Everyone is worried.
And he just starts asking people, I need to check the security protocols on the librarian. He assumes it's a code name for a server room or a secure file archive.
But it's not a what, it's a who.
Right. An administrative assistant, a woman named Kim, she corrects him. The librarian isn't a place, it's a person. Her name is Marjorie Oganowski. She's an associate counsel for the company.
And why the nickname?
Because she's the corporate memory. She documents everything. She's the one who knows where all the bodies are buried, metaphorically speaking. Roger called her that because if you needed to find any piece of information, any contract, any memo, Marjorie could find it.
Mix gets Marjorie alone. And the story she tells?
Yeah.
It's just tragic because it explains everything, and it was so avoidable.
It really paints a picture of Roger's character. Marjorie says Roger was working on due diligence for a company that Gifford was in the process of acquiring. He was going through their books.
And he found something.
He found irregularities, which is the polite corporate term for.
For what?
For massive systemic corruption. Money laundering on a huge scale. It looked like it was connected to exactly the kind of off-the-books government contract money we talked about with the Argonne Express plane. Billions being siphoned off.
And this is where Roger's personality, the good brother, the guy who follows the rules, becomes his fatal flaw. What did he do with this information?
A smart man, a survivor like Nick, would have leaked it to a reporter anonymously. A cynical man might have taken it to the FBI. A corrupt man would have demanded a piece of the action.
But Roger wasn't any of those things.
No. Roger Heller, the ultimate stickler for the rules, picked up the phone and called the corrupt company he had just discovered.
You're kidding me?
He called them up to tell them they had a problem in their accounting that they needed to fix before the acquisition went through. He literally tried to speak to the manager of the criminal conspiracy.
He treated it like an accounting error.
He thought he was pointing out a discrepancy on a spreadsheet. He had no idea he was poking a hornet's nest. He threatened to blow up a multi-billion-dollar deal involving incredibly dangerous people, and he did it openly, using his own name and title.
He thought the rules would protect him.
He suffered from the delusion that the corporate world makes sense. Nick knows the world is fundamentally chaos. Roger believed that if he pointed out a rule violation, the referees would blow the whistle. Instead, the other team just decided to take him off the field. Permanently.
So that's the motive. He knew too much, and he was too naive to stay quiet about it.
Yes. But remember the key fact. He is still alive. The ATM photo proves it, which means he must have successfully hidden the proof.
The leverage he mentioned in the email.
Exactly. The bad guys have his body. They've wiped his laptop and his email, but they haven't found the physical evidence he's stashed somewhere. The files, the data stick, whatever it is.
And as long as that evidence is out there, Roger has value. He's a bargaining chip.
He's a hostage. They're almost certainly interrogating him, trying to find out where he hid it. If he tells them, he's dead because he no longer serves a purpose.
And if he doesn't tell them?
He probably wishes he was dead. It's a race. Nick has to find that leverage before the kidnappers do. If Nick gets it, he might be able to trade it for his brother's life.
But if they find it first?
Roger becomes a loose end that needs to be tied up.
And Nick is really the only person who can find it, isn't he? Because he understands how Roger's mind works. He knows about the good brother facade and the secret life underneath. The police don't have any of that context.
They don't know about Candy DuPont or Marjorie the librarian or the Botox. Nick can see the whole person, not just the victim profile.
We've covered a tremendous amount of ground here. We've gone from $1 billion on a runaway in LA to a terrified man at an ATM in DC. Looking at this entire file, what's the one key takeaway for you?
For me, it's the inversion of the two brothers. You start out thinking Roger is a success story, the pillar of the community. And you find out his life is just a house of cards. It's built on secrets, affairs, and a really dangerous naivety about how the powerful actually operate.
While Nick, the bad brother, the family threw up.
He turns out to be the only one with the clarity to see the world for what it is. He's the only one honest enough about the darkness to be able to navigate it.
It's a pretty stark reminder that all the things we think of as security, the alarm system, the passwords, the gated community, they're mostly illusions.
They're comfort blankets. They can all be bypassed by someone with enough skill and determination, or just a small piece of jumper wire.
And maybe the ultimate lesson here is if you happen to find $1 billion hole in your company's books,
Yeah. Don't call the people who stole it to complain.
probably call your estranged Special Forces brother instead.
That would be a much better first call.
All right, we're going to leave the file open there for now. Roger Heller is alive, but he is missing, the clock is ticking, and that leverage, that insurance policy, is hidden somewhere in the blind spots of a very complicated man's life.
And the wolves are circling very, very close.
That's our deep dive on the disappearance of Roger Heller. It might be a good day to check your digital footprint and maybe change a few passwords. You just never know who's watching.
Stay safe out there.
We'll see you next time.